Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our special Zoo and Aquarium edition of Webinar Wednesdays. We're super glad that you were able to slide the time and fit us into your schedule here at 3:30, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, one of the important things that we want to encourage you to do is to participate in today's webinar. We've got an amazing panel of attractions that are going to share some of their thoughts, but we also want to hear from you. So in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a spot on the WebEx where you can participate in questions and answers. And Kara, I want to thank you for being our first question asker, and we'll get to your question in just a moment. But you can go ahead and submit any questions throughout the entire webinar, and we'll bring those up with our panelists at the appropriate time. So we encourage you to do that. Just to give you kind of a lay of the land of what the agenda is going to look like, we've got about a 90-minute program, and we're just going to have kind of a community discussion and about best practices and what these attractions have learned of late, and we're going to take your questions and answers. If we happen to have any members of the press attending, we want to welcome you. Just drop us a little note in the question and answers to let us know where you're coming from. And if you'd like to follow up with any of our panelists afterwards to get some of their specific feedback, just let us know. If this is your first time attending our Webinar Wednesdays, this is really just a bi-weekly gathering of attraction industry experts where they discuss the current challenges and we try to position our attractions for success. So we talk about a range of topics. The words on the screen will give you kind of an idea of what those are. And if you, maybe somebody passed this along to you and you're wondering, how do I keep up with this in the future? Feel free to come over to gatewayticketing.com/community. You can see all the different content that we have coming up, as well as if you want to look back through the archives and see what we talked about 2 weeks ago, you can find recordings available there. So that's easily available for you. And to start with, I am Matthew Hohenstein. I am our destinations principal here at Gateway Ticketing Systems. And my colleague that's joining me from Gateway is Mr. Randy Jocelyn, leading up our wildlife and conservation areas.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today at our special Zoo and Aquarium edition. I work with Zoos and Aquariums. I'm the wildlife and conservation principal here at Gateway. What we do is Matthew and I kind of work with our attractions on just best practices. How can we help by sharing knowledge from our experiences with you? And that's why I'm super excited to have this great panel of all these panelists joining us today, because this is really what this is about, an opportunity to share ideas and best practices. So we've got a great group of folks. They're really great friends of ours. From down in Zoo Miami, we have Diana Vega. Hi, Diana. Diana's on mute, but she can say hello.
Hey guys, hi. How are you?
Diana, you're the guest services manager at Zoo Miami, and we're really excited. As a sneak peek is that you guys reopened yesterday after being closed for a couple months. So I know you're all excited to tell us how it went yesterday. So we're looking forward to that. We also have Anthony Brown joining us from the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach. He's the vice president and CFO. Hi, Anthony. How's it going today?
Hi, Randy. Hi, everyone. Everything's going well.
Great. And you're joined today by our friend Nicole. Nicole, you've been at the aquarium for 22 years. We were just talking about this. I mean, between all of our panelists, you guys have worked there for 15 to 20 years at your attraction. So I know you have a wealth of knowledge, and we're happy to have you joining us today as well, Nicole. Hi.
Hi. Thank you.
And then just down the road, down a beautiful train, if you take the Amtrak between Los Angeles and San Diego, you'll end up really close to the San Diego Zoo, the world famous San Diego Zoo. And Michelle Israel is joining us today. She's the director of sales and partnerships. Hi, Michelle.
Hey there.
I always, for our friends that haven't been to San Diego, I always tell them to take the train. I'm a SoCal native growing up in Orange County, and the train to San Diego is one of the greatest things ever because it goes right on the beach. So if you have any questions about train travel, hit me up, and I'd love to chat with you guys about that. We also have Bill D'Angelo. He's our technician working behind the scenes. Bill's smiling and waving. Any questions or any audio problems or anything, talk to Bill. just send a QA to him, and he'll be able to fill you in and help you out. As always, we send an email after our presentation. It will give you great links. You can share it with your friends, and you could join us on other opportunities. If you have any links that you want to share, because there's going to be a lot of sharing today, use that Q&A feature. If we talk about something like a special fall program and you're super excited and you want to share what you're doing, I see Sarah in Oakland, if she wants to share what they're going to be doing virtually in some of our virtual programs, which I heard about, just go ahead and put the links in the Q&A, because we definitely want to use this as an opportunity to share with everyone. One quick thing, if you've joined us on other webinars, we are going to be doing our slideshow for a while, but this is going to be a little bit more conversational. So at a certain point, we're probably going to turn off the sharing and just look at everybody's beautiful faces as we ask questions and talk. So one little side note that it might be a little different than some of our webinars in the past. Matthew, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. That's great. So just a couple things we ran across that were exciting. We've seen, obviously, attractions that are starting to reopen more and more. This one caught me a little bit because I'm used to going to the Smithsonian and not ever worrying about admission. But like many of us, they're having to implement timed entry even for all of those complimentary museums. But very excited to see several more of those museums being able to open up this Friday. One of the other things that I had run across was really an innovative way, I think, to operate in situations where we cannot deal with large amounts of folks. So this was the Beach Bend Amusement Park and Splash Lagoon in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And they have offered their attraction up for exclusive use for a 2-hour period for a few $1,000s. So, you know, in these situations where maybe we can't operate because the amount of folks that would be able to come during this period of time, even with limited capacity, isn't going to turn anything around. Really an interesting way, I think, to, you know, market the attraction as an opportunity to use it exclusively for a very small party. So you're not having to worry about as many of these social distancing issues while still bringing in some money. Certainly not as much as I think if we were operating our attractions at full capacity. But
Matthew, I've got a plethora of fall birthdays coming up with my family, and I'm pretty sure that would be the best birthday party ever.
Yes, that's a great idea.
What'd you do for your birthday? You know, we rented out a theme park.
That's awesome. Another article that had popped up in the USA Today this week, and I really thought it was kind of an interesting moment to kind of blue sky and to think about maybe what some of the lasting impacts are from the pandemic. Was an article that was written by Arthur Levine that a gentleman that used to be an Imagineer at Walt Disney attractions had kind of shared some ideas. And really one of the things he kind of pointed out is that, you know, since we've gone into this pandemic, the way that we're treating attractions is a little bit different than they have been in the past. We're treating people more like they're visiting a hospital than visiting, you know, a place of fun. And so, you know, his idea is, you know, do we implement something at our attractions similar to TSA, where we create a safety bubble, right, where everybody entering the airport goes through security, and we know that from that point on that, hey, this is a safe area. Obviously, we've done that to a certain extent at some of our attractions with security and with bag checks or metal detecting. But does that extend to even, you know, coronavirus testing? And does that then give us a situation where we're able to create the safest environment possible? And one of the things that he suggests in this is that, you know, even if we have a vaccine tomorrow, even if everything is, you know, completely cleared up, he thinks that this kind of a solution is actually what might be needed long term. So I think that one of the things it certainly spoke to me is that, hey, if I knew that the area I was entering was super safe, that certainly does give me a different level of comfort. So I thought that was exciting. You know, it's definitely a different thing that I thought attractions would have to worry about, but it may be the future. So Josh, thank you for your comment. I agree with, I enjoyed the article. Josh commented that the rapid test could have a huge positive impact on the industry's recovery. So I'm hopeful that, that rapid test does, prove to be more right than wrong, and that we could maybe leverage that at least in the short term.
Yeah, and it is really interesting. We have had the COVID tests in our household, and we did have to wait a few days, but our neighbors that just got them recently, they're getting results in the 30 minutes, and of course we're talking even faster. And it makes us it's an interesting conversation, Matthew, not to take away too much, but if we go back and we remember what it was like when we were doing these webinars in April, and we were seeing the reopenings, really the Chinese health safety code that is still heavily used with Alipay and WeChat Pay. But I think maybe what I'm trying to say from a technical side is this might be time to start considering how you might be implementing something like this. Do you need to have an ID number? Obviously with the rapid ones, but if you can prove that you have a clean bill of health, what does that look like in terms of your registration process as well before you enter the attraction? So it's really interesting to see what this might look like as everybody is reopened.
That's a great point. Jumping over to a zoo that is a little bit more physically close to me, the Jacksonville Zoo and Gardens. One of the things that I really appreciated and I hope is going to help them is their level of transparency. I think one of the things that they went to the media and they went public on their website with is truly what happened as a result of the pandemic and their closure and their limited attendance. And then being very clear and very transparent with that, and then asking, hey, how can you contribute to this? So while they had a shortfall of $6 million, really kind of saying, hey, we're very much like public radio. Hey, we're going to shoot for between now and the 20th of raising $250,000 so that we can start to recoup some of this and make sure that we're able to care for the animals in our collection and the plants in the level that you would expect for us. So I think we'll see how that comes from them, but I think it's a great bit of ensuring that we're transparent and open so that then folks can know how they can support us. We had talked several weeks or maybe months ago now about some of the zoos that had switched to drive-through attractions. And while I think we knew that this is definitely a possibility, and several zoos have adopted this, it's interesting in this article to pick up on a few of the metrics that were the result that San Antonio Zoo reported. So one of the things that they shared was on their very first day of operating as a drive-through zoo, they had 893 vehicles moving through. And to date, they've brought in over $1 million in revenue through this new experience. Now, when they had had to close their doors, they had to furlough about 400 members of staff. And what they've been able to do is actually bring back that entire staff since then, and I think that they've attributed the drive-through zoo to being able to help that. So in total, just in the month of May, they had 21,000 families visiting with entrance fees of up to $65 per vehicle. So I think it's definitely a sign that innovative ideas can turn some results.
Matthew, I was also on an AZA session yesterday where a gentleman from the San Antonio Zoo also stated that they launched a new membership program. I think it might have been right along the exact same time period, and it was a pay-by-the-month membership program. And I believe he mentioned that they picked up in their first month 1,000 new members that are in the pay-by-the-month program. And that's it's a good example of pivoting, because you've got these guests, they want to experience your zoo, they're driving, but they might not be interested in a 12-month commitment, but you're able to bring them in and get them comfortable with, hey, when the zoo opens, we've got this place for you. So I'm pretty sure it was right when they opened the zoo to the public without cars.
That's great. And then one of the other elements or things that have been popping up is a lot more virtual events. So the Little Rock Zoo recently announced that they'll be doing their virtual Wild Wines 2020 virtually and using that as an opportunity to do some fundraising. The Smithsonian doing kind of the Bite Night Zoofari virtually. And then the aquariums in North Carolina, virtualizing their run. And I wanted to kind of start segueing over a little bit to some of our panelists. And Diana, I know that you had mentioned that the Zoo Miami was looking to virtualize your run. Can you talk about some of the maybe events that you've done virtual and what's been good or bad about those?
Yes, so we did Feast of the Beasts. Actually, it was canceled back in March, I think a day or two before the actual event happened. So I know it's heartbreaking for our event staff that literally works a year up to it. So they did a fantastic job. They worked with our communications director, Ron McGill, and they put out a great program. It was an hour. Most of it was pre-recorded. Actually, all of it was pre-recorded except for the VIP section after the program where Ron was with live animals, and it was very successful. They were hoping to raise about $20,000, and we ended up raising about $32,000 in the silent auction space. We actually got very, very creative with the animal science teams, and they started. They offered like walk with animals, where we would videotape it and then we'll send it to you in your choice of whether it's WhatsApp or a USB, whatever that would be. We're also doing a zoo run in October, and so I'll put the links in the Q&A. And so you'll be able to sign up, and you would do the virtual run, or you'll be able to do the 5K in the comfort of your own home. And we've been able to reach, I think the furthest person that has signed up is Greece. So we're very excited that we're actually able to expand our reach. And we've had quite a few registrants, so we're very happy. And it's a partnership with West Kendall Baptist.
Well, that's great. Michelle, has there been anything from your perspective out in San Diego that y'all have done virtually that's...
Yeah, we just hosted our annual Ritz Gala virtually last weekend. And it was originally scheduled for mid-June. We weren't open, so we hosted it last week. And we ended up having over 21 different countries participate in Ritz. So it was really nice to see the ability to get to some new potential friends and donors. So that was exciting. And we've got one coming up here in the next month or so. And that'll be our food, wine, and brew. Typically, we have 180 different vendors on grounds sampling wines and beers. So now you will get a box delivered to your house if you sign up, and you get your choice of beer or wine or non-alcoholic, and we'll be delivering that to people's homes. So it's turning it around.
That's great. So I'll chime in with just a little bit of personal experiences, and unfortunately they don't relate to the zoo or aquarium space, but I've recently done a virtual room, a virtual escape room, and then this morning I was also reading about this new secret library, which is very similar, but where a lot of actors are now going and kind of creating these virtual experiences. And one of the things I'll say from someone that's partaken in these is that I was really shocked at how it did allow, like I felt like I was participating. It did not feel like it was me just watching TV. It was a very, I was still part of the experience. And so I think that, our attractions really can continue to grow this space, even while we're returning to what is more normal. I think that we shouldn't lose sight of what we can do virtual. Michelle, to your point on how it expands our reach and gets us out there more. I think there's a lot of opportunity to embrace the virtual space. Hey, Nicole, has there been anything over at the aquarium that y'all have done virtually? Oh, you may be still muted, Nicole. Sorry.
Sorry, has to be someone on every Zoom. We really just have like a toe in the water of this. Our fundraiser, or one of our 2 annual fundraisers, we'll be doing virtually next month, called Seafair, which is similar to what Michelle was describing, a taste of Long Beach. restaurants, silent auction, et cetera. So that'll be launching on October 17th, I think, whatever that Saturday is of that week. But that will be our first venture into the virtual fundraising space on any kind of scale. We've done a few small, coffee with a curator events that have been just, 20 or 30 people, but nothing on a big scale yet. But we're wading into the space next month.
Great. Well, again, I think we're going to continue to see a lot of innovation in this virtual space, and I think that's great. I love it that I can also connect to attractions that I may never be able to physically visit. So.
And I think, Matthew, I saw the pictures of your escape room that you sent to me, and it looked super awesome and fun, and it looked great. And one of the things that struck me, especially when, Michelle, you mentioned how many people participated in your last virtual event. Some of your attractions that maybe are well, of course, if you can't open right now, you can have these virtual experiences. But it also, like, if you're in an escape room, it actually opens the door to extend your operating hours, because you could easily market in the morning hours when you're not going to be open to the public to a different time zone and effectively be participating in commerce. I think it's really great because it's opened these new doors, because you really could be a 24/7 attraction if you have a nice virtual connection to your audience. I think it's really cool.
And then the last thing that I ran across, and so I spend a lot of my time working with a lot of the destination attractions, and a lot of them have had to actually forego their normal October events. One of the ones that's near and dear to me is the Halloween Horror Nights event here at Universal Orlando. Unfortunately, it's been canceled in Singapore and throughout the world. But one of the things I think that I'm super excited about seeing the zoos and aquariums keeping up and being able to deliver are these fall events. In a situation where we've all been cooped up for, so long, with kids, needing to get back and some sort of normalcy, I think that these are really great ways that we can bring these to life and in a safe environment. So here, there was the Wizarding Weekends at the John Ball Zoo that's coming up and wrapping up here soon. The Boo at the Zoo at the Nashville Zoo and Bronx Zoo. And then the Drive-Through Jack-O-Lantern Spectacular at the Roger Williams Park Zoo. So these, I think that we're going to continue to see the zoo space leading in this, and I'm really excited about it, because I think it's very possible that these events can be very safe and give the opportunity for the zoos to bring in some additional revenue. So very exciting to see.
Really cool. All right. That's just kind of get the ball rolling a little bit on some of these great plans. So thank you, Matthew, for putting some of those industry events together. Any fall programs that anybody wants to talk about? Are you guys doing anything novel or that's exciting that's coming up that may be different? I know we just talked about the virtual programs, but I'm just curious if there's anything different this year. One of the things I was listening to about on the AZA meetings earlier today was there's a lot of hybrid experiences where that these events are traditionally very popular, and you might have 8,000 or 10,000. That's going to push you over your capacity limits that have been forced upon some of these attractions based on your municipalities. So a lot of these attractions and zoos were doing hybrids, like virtual experiences with the jack-o'-lantern concepts and whatnot. So I'm just curious if there's anything that you guys have been doing, Diana, for the fall coming up, for Halloween or the fall festivals.
So for Halloween, we actually canceled on-site Zoo Boo just because there's so many restrictions in Miami-Dade County. I know we're known worldwide and not for what we want to be known for. So we actually have had to cancel that. We will be taking it to social media, and instead what we're going to do is we still have dinosaurs until November 1st. We call it Dinosaurs Live. So we're going to try to do a drive-through with them. And if that works on October 16th and 17th, then we'll go ahead and extend it to October 30th and 31st, and maybe have the cars like they deck them out make them costumey, I guess, something like that. But we are moving forward looking at having something on site and actually having something in the virtual space. And the reason for that is because the virtual space allows us to really hit our, really target our mission and explain what we're all about. Because when you come to, let's say, Feast of the Beast, yeah, you have 40 different restaurants and a lot of liquor. However, it doesn't really explain what our mission is. It's just a big, big party. So what this allowed us to do is actually show what our animal health department does, what our nutrition department does, what animal science does, our conservation team, and really hit home our mission and what we're all about. So I think we definitely want to incorporate that, and our reach is a lot more, like Michelle was saying. We can reach people from all over the world. So we're looking at a combination of spaces, and right now we're preparing for Zoo Lights. So nothing quite unique there, but we're going to be tackling that in the next month or so.
Diana, I really, I think a lot can be learned from one of the things that you said there is, hey, we're going to try this out here, and we're going to make sure that we can do it really successful, and then we're going to extend it. I'm seeing something similar right now with Universal Orlando. As I mentioned, they've closed their Halloween Horror Nights event, but they're going to try something in the park during the day, and they're going to figure out if they can make it work, and then they're going to commit to it if they can prove it's going to be a safe and good experience. So I think there's a lot of merit in giving that a thought like that.
I love what Karen's talking about in the chat. She's mentioning over at Zoo Atlanta, they're still going to do the boo at the zoo, but of course they're going to have some limitations, and they're going to have one-way pathways, which obviously makes a lot of sense, especially with kids as you are navigating through the zoo. But the teams are really excited. She says they're looking for interesting ways to pass candy to the kids, like PVC pipes and all kinds of tools. So I think that's pretty neat. And Jose, thanks for filling in. Fort Worth Zoo is doing a drive-through boo. Same thing. It would be interesting to see how we're going to distribute candy and the goodies to the kids when they come by. I love the idea of decorating the cars. I think we should probably set up a webinar a couple days after Halloween and see how it went, because it would be pretty exciting. Cool. Well, Diana, I'm going to stick with you for a moment because you were talking about, setting things up and forging ahead a little bit and trying things out. I mean, you actually just reopened yesterday. Is that right?
For the second time, yes.
For the second time. So you got to practice the first time. So you mentioned that you had 2,000 people in the park, and that was actually a couple months ago. So a couple months ago, you had some folks, you were open, and you were told you had to shut back down. So you reopened yesterday after being closed for 2 months and change. Can you just walk us through what it was like as you reopened? We found a good article that talks a little bit about you finally reopening. So why don't you just walk us through what it was like to go through reopening 2.0?
Yeah, well, we had worked so hard the first time for all the reopening documents. So that was, and we worked tirelessly just to make sure that every single person from the operations team was trained and they felt safe, and we did modifications. And so right up to closing, we had a pretty good rhythm going there. And so when we closed, we got notification from the mayor's office to close in less than 24 hours. And we, of course, did that. This time around was a lot easier to open because all of that hard work had already been done. And by the way, again, thank you guys, Matthew, Randy, Gateway, just for all of these webinars, because it really helped us create those documents. So we appreciate that. So all of these signs had already been up, and we had a video actually that showed guests, because we know that guests don't read. They don't like to read. None of us like to read, right? Well, except for our personal time, we don't like to see all those ordinances because it's just so many words and so many hard words sometimes, right? So what we did is we did a fun video, and just to show people, back then it was you had to put on your mask when you were indoors, and then when you were outdoors, you didn't have to wear a mask. Well, things changed, and now you have to wear a mask all of the time. So Ron did a quick switch on the video there. We put a quick patch on all of the doors. We had already had the signage on the website. So everything was, we pretty much had everything in play. So it was much easier, and the staff was a lot more excited, I think, to be back. They were a lot more cautious the first time, and just like I said, it took us a lot of hand-holding just to make sure that they're like, okay, we can do this. But this time they were just anxious to get back, and And luckily, we did not have to let go of anybody. We have some people that have moved on to better opportunities, which is great. The first time we actually had a position for every single person, whether it was a full-timer or a part-timer. This time around, we did not. So the part-timers, we didn't lay them off, but we didn't pay them. So they were furloughed and they collected unemployment in that time. And so now they're back and we're excited about that. The full-timers instead, what they did is we dispersed them to other teams to help them, like animal science or animal care and some other zoos and aquariums. Animal health, which is the hospital, and nutrition, and they did, there they are posing. But in the animal hospital, some of the admissions teams, sales teams that are full-timers, they created a French drain. So in some of the shipping stalls there that were much needed. So they did a lot of projects, and they also learned to appreciate all of these other departments. And all the other departments got to get to know them too, because they're always behind the scenes. So that was a good thing that came out of it. Now, this is an information booth that we have right before you go and enter the bank style queue up to the front entrance. And these are our ladies from the sales department being sassy and confident as usual. So we always love them just basically welcoming guests, making sure that they have reservations, so that they don't go through the entire line and have to go back. So you see the QR codes on the right, and that way we can just easily get them on the website, do the reservations, and make it very easy for them to get in. And if there's someone that's not computer savvy, one of them will go and just get the tickets for them and walk them through. So we try to make it very, very easy. And this morning I was so happy to know that the customers are being very nice. So that's always a good thing when the employees are having a good time, because the guests are being pleasant. That's these pictures. And then I don't know if you have any other.
Well, no, I think we need to tell everybody about your amazing photo opportunity that's behind the QR code.
Yes.
Are you, first of all, it's one of the greatest. I should find the photo of me sticking my head right there. But are you letting people go up to that? I'm just curious. They're wearing a mask, so you're probably letting them safely go and get their mask picture.
Yeah, so they are more than 6 feet away. It doesn't show that in the picture, but what the sales team is doing is they're sanitizing that every 30 minutes. So they're just making sure that when people go, and there's not even that many people going right now. We're such a large zoo. We actually had, I think, over 700 people today, which is not a big deal for us because we can handle a lot more than that. However, we're hitting bigger numbers than we did last year around the same time, just with one day opening, and we already beat last year's numbers today. So that was the phone call I received earlier, admissions team being very excited. But yes, this is a very popular photo op for us, and it basically says we had fun at Zoo Miami, but we're pooped. And so everybody loves to put their head in there, and then it's very social media worthy. So we just make sure we disinfect it. The ladies didn't put it out because we were taking a picture of them, but they had all of their cleaning materials underneath the table. So they wipe them down after every use, or if there's just a line, they do it every 30 minutes.
Cool. You kind of touched on this, and it is very encouraging to hear about that your team was so excited, because I wanted to ask you about the transition. You were able to recycle so much of what you did, and everybody was really excited because you really went through an awesome dress rehearsal, basically. Let me ask the same question about your guests. Did you see that same kind of excitement out of your guests? And were your guests just better at following the rules? We had some questions coming in about masks and groups, and I'm curious, are we training the guests better to enjoy the experience better? Are you seeing that when you reopen?
I will say that it's very helpful in Miami-Dade County that we have the emergency order that says that you have to wear the mask at all times. So that way, the grocery stores have already trained them. The retailers have already trained them. We also have, and probably you have it in your own city and don't know about it, or your own county, is you can call the non-emergency police number, and most, if not all of them, have a COVID unit. So we didn't even know this, so we found out by mistake, and one of the officers actually trained me and said, hey, you can always call us and just ask the COVID unit to come out and make sure everybody is in compliance, and we'll come out for free. Because, at first they'll try to say, well, we can have an officer posted, but that's going to cost a fortune. And we don't, we lost, much like Jacksonville, $6 million in all the months that we've been closed. So we're tasked now to be creative in ways of finding revenue streams, and the sales department is working hard doing that. So we have different sales strategies that we recycled, like you said, Randy, from the first time. So we brought back $10 Mondays, and we're also doing some virtual programs like virtual greetings with the animals. That's going to be launching tomorrow. We have the Dino drive-through. We have just a bunch of things that we're doing, VIP tours that we're starting again on Monday that the guests are excited about. But I think they're just excited to get out, and more things are opening, and they feel safe in an outdoor space. And we're 4 miles long, so we're 350 developed acres, and that's a lot of space for them to be able to move through. So we've been seeing them a lot more content. Members, of course, is still high in our category. We're very happy to see that there's a lot more internet tickets and people coming on site. We've encouraged that a lot, of course. But I'm happy if the employees are happy, and they seem to be very, they're saying that the guests are a lot better, that they're a lot more compliant, where I think that as the percentage of positive COVID cases increases, at least in Miami-Dade, so does the meanness of the guests because they're just like scared, and they want, they're just angry. Even though they made the choice to go to the attraction, they are upset because, they're like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I don't want to be next to anybody. But we have to kind of kindly remind them, you're just 6 foot away from people. Once you get inside, you have 4 miles, and you can distance yourself as much as you want. Some of the complaints we were getting is, well, I was looking at the bears, and somebody came and they were too close to me. I'm like, well, you can move and go to the next exhibit and come back to see the bears. But it got a little crazy there for a while. So, but Randy, right now it's only our second day, but COVID cases are still in the single digits. I believe they're about 4% right now in Miami-Dade. So everybody's pretty good right now. And this is our safari cycle. You can see our entrance on the left-hand side. So there's a lot of distance. You see the guests are behaving quite a bit. The picture on the bottom left is actually when we first opened. So you saw people could wait to get in. Now they're actually dispersed throughout the day, so you don't see those lines, even though we're getting pretty great numbers. Yesterday we had almost 900 people in the park. You didn't see that line. But that was when we opened for members on May 27th. We did a member opening for May 27th, and then we opened June 1st for the general public. Members usually come during the morning, so that's why you saw those lines. Here it's very safe. The guest services representatives, what they wanted to do is they wanted to hold the scanner. They didn't want the scanner out there because the guests just don't know what to do, and they'd have to interact some more with guests, and this is a lot faster and safer for them. So we said, no problem, you can continue doing that. The other slide that you saw was Safari Cycles. So Randy, I know you visited our location quite a bit. So Safari Cycles makes probably over $1.5 million a year, those quadricycles that you see behind you there. And that site always has lines every single time you visit it. We have 200 Safari Cycles as our fleet, and they get rented about 3 times on a weekend normally. Now what we did is we took the whole operation online, or the majority of them, and we have very few cycles that are rented on site. The staff stress level has greatly reduced. They're not as stressed of having all these people in front of them. They love it. They love the new system of going online. We even installed a new RFID system so that they knew how many cycles are out and how many cycles are in, so that it was easier for them to turn them around. They sanitize them with a little backpack every time they come in, so they have a great rhythm. And we have social distance markers on the floors. So even though we had to pay a convenience fee because we still have a third-party vendor online, we actually made almost $80,000 more in the month of June than we had last year, the same month, with more attendance. So, and you couldn't even tell going to the location. So we're very proud of that operation in particular. We worked really hard to change that one.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a really there's so much good information that I want to follow up on. What we're going to do is we got a lot of questions coming in, Diana. So let me bounce around a little bit. I do want to ask one quick cycle question to tie in a little bit with a question that we have from Lovey at the Mob Museum in Las Vegas, and that's are any of you all, and specifically maybe on the cycles here, are you reserving a time for the cycles, or the cycles are just all day?
So we have I believe, we rent them for 3-hour intervals. So one of the things that we did change on the website is that or just in general, they used to be sold for a minimum of 2 hours. And what we had noticed on the reports, when I was analyzing the reports, is there were so many customers that had come back for an additional hour, to pay for an additional hour. So we just said, you know what, let's just increase the minimum to 3 hours. We were expecting just a complaint, now 1 complaint. So you're able to reserve them in 1 and 2 different time slots. It's basically I think it's 1 at 10. I don't quite remember because I'm in so many projects, but I think you can only, you have to reserve them for the day, I think 1 of 2 time slots. Or you can do like a single use of 3 hours, and then, actually that's what it is. You can reserve it for the day, and then if you return it after the 3 hours, we just rent it on site after we sanitize it. That's what we do. And that's been working. So we have pretty much all of them except for 10 online. We have strollers online. We have electric wheelchairs online. If you go to zoomiami.org and you click on tickets, you'll be able to see our tickets, and then you'll be able to see the safari cycle rentals on that page as well. What we did is we also put our membership discounts on our membership page for reservations, because we require the members to have reservations. They get their discount online as well. We verify the membership on site, make sure they're members. They usually are. If not, they pay the difference there, and then off they go. It's a very, very easy thing. Also, the contract. We had a contract that would always take time. Now that's all online. They just click that they read it. It's auto-populated. We satisfy legals, and that's it. So, yep, it's rented once a day, and then if somebody comes in before 3 hours or a little after that, then we can rent them again. We do that on site.
And I think that's, to answer Lovey, you were kind of talking about special experiences that are inside the gate, these revenue opportunities and experiences. And I kind of like what Diana said, like her staff loves it because most of the work is done. And so reserving a time and selecting a time, it's probably going to be a relief for your staff. And it also just might outperform the on-site sales of trying to push into it. Plus it just frees up the line. So I think if you can reserve guest experiences for times, I absolutely recommend it. The only thing you're going to want to do in any technology system, or even just straight operationally, just make sure you have a game plan should someone show up late. How easy is it to swap someone's time for another time, or to take care of a guest that just had to show up late for unexpected reasons. So
Randy, on that, we are infamous here for everybody not arriving on time. So what we did is we don't have time slots, we have day slots.
Okay.
So that's why I was saying if we need to turn it over, we do that on site, but that's very minimal because some people, are 3 hours or they keep them longer. If you're talking about additional experiences, they might be talking about like feeding stations inside the zoo. So what we've done is, I love phases. I don't like to do things all at once. My team knows that, and so they always say, what is the plan? And what are the dates you would like me to implement this? I don't like doing things all at the same time, so that I'm able to analyze if something works or does not work. So for us, it was very important to say, okay, what is the base experience? The base experience for us is making sure that obviously it's admission, for all of the food stands to be available, for the retail to be available, and safari cycles, because it is a very large zoo, so people need to be able to transport themselves, and strollers, of course, and wheelchairs. So that to us is base. We don't reduce our general admission either, because we are providing the general base experience, and that has worked well. We have not received 1 complaint. Actually, 1 before we opened the first time, and then after that, nothing. The next step is every Monday, our goal is to open something. So right now, we currently have our transportation units retraining on our trams, on making sure they're updated they have the updated information for their scripts, so that on Monday they're ready to go. We already put the VIP tours online today to start selling those. We have a meeting with the animal health, the chief of veterinarian staff, as well as the chief of animal science, to see when we can start opening giraffe feeding. We'll open that first. We'll give it a week, and then we'll open camel feeding, and then also we have parrot feeding. Now, regarding times for those are very difficult because you're dealing with animals. So those, they don't care what your time is, we're on their time. So what we're going to do is create an animal feeding ticket where it's valid to any one of those locations. You'll be able to purchase that online and then go with whatever one's available, and that will be on site. And then online, it'll be, like I said, a flexible ticket. So that's what we're looking to do with that.
Oh, that's good information. Awesome. Thanks, Diana. I'm gonna jump gears over to Nicole, and I'll share some slides in a moment. But you're about to go. The Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach is about to have reopening 2.0. Like right now, I would say maybe you're 1.5 because you fully opened, and then I believe you had to close your indoor spaces. Can you talk through some of the parallels there about what you heard from Diana and what is it like in Long Beach right now?
Well, yes, you're correct. We opened the whole space, the entire campus, and then got word that we had to close indoor spaces. California had to close indoor museums, which we fell into the group of a museum. And then, so the next day, we just opened the outdoor spaces. And luckily, because we had done work to open the whole space, just moving to outdoor admission wasn't horribly burdensome. We were able to be nimble and just transition to outdoor space only. So we had signage in place. We just had to change the entrance pathway a little bit from our main entrance to a side gate, and just keep the pathway, open and clear as best we could. And you can see there that we've got, and I'm sorry, these are kind of round because our air quality is so terrible right now. That's why it's so yucky looking. But once the guests on the right there are scanning, that's their self-scanning station. And most of them are pretty good. Some of them want to reach over there, like you were saying, Diana. Guests want to reach over and touch that scanner gun. Most of them don't, but the employees are fine to leave it where it is. We really don't have too much of a challenge there. So we've got print-at-home tickets, and then we've got a drop box on the other side, that little black bin for walk-up tickets. And that's really been an interesting challenge for us, is the degree of walk-up sales that we're seeing. Despite the fact that we say everybody's got to have an advanced reservation and that it's required, this is one thing that we wish we were a little better at retraining our guests to do. So we have had to siphon off some of our online sales into a walk-up scenario, and we're actually issuing times because the demand is high. We've had to issue times for walk-up guests to come and buy a ticket. So you don't see that here published on our website, but people who just bypass this and don't either buy a ticket or make a reservation to go along with a previously purchased ticket or comp or anything that they might have in their hands already, and we've had to accommodate the walk-up component. So that's one thing I would say to folks who maybe haven't opened yet, is you really just got to be nimble and adaptable, because you think you have a lot of balls in the air now. You're gonna get more added to that quotient where you've just got to keep them in the air. Sorry, Randy, did you have a?
Well, I was just going to say, what percentage of your daily attendance is these walk-up, non-reservation, well, not pre-purchase or pre-reserved tickets?
We're really just experiencing an impact on Saturdays and Sundays. Those are the days that people want to come, and we're probably seeing about 25 to 30% of people who are just walking up. And in the last 2 weekends, we've effectively sold out. and we've had to turn some folks away. So we have expanded after Labor Day, we reduced our operating hour day down by 1 hour on the weekends to from 9 to 9 to 9 to 8. And this weekend, we're going back to 9 to a 9 p.m. closure so that we can meet more demand. Because people are walking up at 4 o'clock and they can't buy a ticket until 6:30. So it's a good problem to have, but we are having to respond in that way to folks who are walking up. And these slides here are just, from our website, talk about our safety processes and our entry requirements.
Well, and I really like, actually, this was one of the first times I've seen are you wearing the mask properly slide. I'm sure other people have done it, because obviously we're all used to saying wear the mask, but I love this one saying, the nose needs to be covered. And these are big, bright orange signs, so hopefully people are seeing them.
Well, it started out with, when we reopened, with these cute little images about face coverings in the 2 languages. And then we had to adapt because people are pulling the mask down, and these how you wear the mask properly sign is something that we had to throw into the mix sort of after we had opened. We didn't open with these signs in place because in addition to being nimble, this has been our greatest challenge. And I shouldn't make it out to be like it's the worst thing ever, but we do have people who are walking around with masks below their nose. And in trying to manage the anxiety of everybody, right? Oh, don't get close to me, or oh, they're not wearing their mask right. This is a step that we felt we had to take. We've got decals that also have this graphic on it about how to wear your mask. Overwhelmingly, people are compliant. You just get people who find a loophole of, oh, I can carry my drink around and then I can pull my mask down. So those are some of the challenges that we've experienced. But by and large, people are so happy to be out of the house, have a place to take their children that they might roll their eyes a little bit, but they'll put that mask back up and continue on with their experience.
Michelle, I see you smiling and nodding, so I'm going to jump to you for a second. I mean, are you guys seeing the same type of experiences out of your guests in San Diego? Oh.
There we go. Yeah, we are. So we opened on June 20th, and we were the first Southern California attraction to actually open, and the only attraction so far in our immediate competitive set that is open. So we didn't have a lot to go by. And yeah, masks are the number one question. It's the number one issue that we get in our calls. It's crazy. Our phones, when we opened back up, our phone volume was greater than our busiest day of the year, because everyone was just confused as to how is this going to work and what do I need to know. And so we created tons of signage, as you can see here. And we also created a very robust FAQ on our website, along with a video like Diana did, just to explain to guests what to expect when you show up. How is it going to be different than your normal visit? And so this was very helpful for us, and we continue to point guests to these FAQs every day, and we have it at the top of our website. One thing that we learned is very quickly is that guests, the number one concern was safety. They wanted to get out. They wanted to get out of the house. They wanted to do something with their children, but they wanted to make sure it was safe. And so we wanted to make sure that that message came through really loud and clear. When we reopened, we colored a little bit outside of the lines of what a lot of zoos and aquariums are doing, and we did not do timed tickets or reservations in advance. So we went with what I like to call the Walmart model. Again, we were one of the first to open, so we didn't have a lot to learn from, a lot of other institutions to learn from. So we have a first come, first serve system. And we message that very clearly on our website, very clearly on our phones. And I think, Randy, there's a slide that shows what's on the website with a scale.
Let's see.
And so there's our FAQs, and then there's one with penguins on it. Look for the penguins.
Yep.
There you go. So, so this is at the top of our website. You can click on, before you visit, and you click on the facility, and it will tell you the popular times. So you can see here, this is for the zoo, and it shows you if you were operating at minimized capacity, so to minimize your wait time, consider coming in a non-busy time. And here's our busy time. So being very transparent with the guest, and saying come early, come on a weekday, and go to the website and look at the estimated wait time to get in. So you can see where that blue arrow is pointing down. That is an updated number. So we do a time and motion study, and we actually time how long it takes for someone to go through the parking lot. We took a section of our parking lot, roped it off, and used that for health screening. So they line up in the parking lot and get through the health screening and then go to the front gate. So the wait time is actually to get through the health screening. There is no wait to actually once you get through the health screening, to go through the turnstile. And this has worked really well for us. Now, it caused a lot of angst in the beginning when we started talking about this. Obviously, people were concerned about, what if we get bombarded? And so we really relied on our data to tell us if this was going to be a good idea. So we knew that pre-COVID, 50% of our guests are buying their tickets day of. We knew pre-COVID we had a huge member population, and they were not familiar with making a reservation. We knew what hours of the day we peaked and had the most guests on ground. So again, going back to the Walmart model, we took the square footage. We looked up how did Walmart do this, and they took the square footage of the store and assigned 100 square feet per guest that was in the store at any given time. So that's exactly the formula we used on grounds to say how many guests can we take at any given time, and that's how many we'll let through the turnstile. And as we get full and people leave, then new people can click through. And so I'm proud to say that we have not gotten ourselves into a really negative situation with that plan. The longest wait time we've had in the parking lot was 45 minutes on the peak Saturday. And otherwise, it's been pretty well, it's been a pretty nice flow. We know that we have about a 5-minute wait on the weekdays, and there's probably a 20-minute wait on the weekend. What we saw was our members, especially, started coming earlier than normal. So at 9 o'clock, we had people lined up to get in. We open at 9, versus normally coming between 10 and 11 o'clock as arrival time. So we saw everything move forward an hour, but very well behaved for the most part with that.
Michelle, one of the questions that's coming in from Kara, I believe in Atlanta, was how do you regulate the flow going into the parking lot going into the park during the busy time slot? Is there any steps that you put in place there?
Again, the stopgap is the health screening. So we have a tent at the zoo where they come in for the health screening. So they're in a bank queue and socially distanced out in that bank queue. And so that's where the wait is, if there is a wait. Once they get through the health screening, they're free to go. At the safari park, we have a very large parking lot. And so we actually do health screening of people in their cars. And so while they're waiting in their car to get their health screening, once they get the screening, then they park and they come on inside.
That's
so
great.
We have a lot of communication going, lot of radio chatter going back and forth between the tents and the front gate. But again, it has been very smooth. And again, we looked at our numbers. We knew what to expect. We anticipated how many guests we were going to get based on those numbers and based on what we were hearing from our partners in travel, the San Diego Tourism Association, and what was going on with people coming from a further distance. We knew that we would get more local traffic and less distance traffic. And so we took all that into consideration when we looked at our numbers.
Got it.
You know, I was going to jump to Anthony, but I want to ask you actually. I'm going to go change directions a little bit. Anthony, I want to talk to you about finance and budgets and forecasts. But Michelle, you just were talking about marketing and your sales and your locals, and so I actually would love to pivot and say, can you walk us through the changes and the shifts and the pivots of your marketing strategy? The San Diego Zoo has a fantastic international consumer base. I know we've chatted before about the market, but can you walk us through the processes? How did you analyze this? What did you use for the benchmarks? How have you changed? Where are you spending your media buys now? I'm really curious to hear the sales and marketing perspective.
Sure. So yes, we probably have a different demographic than a lot of zoos and aquariums. We do compete with the Southern California attractions, so Disneyland, Universal, SeaWorld, and so our market is a little bit different. 14% of our visitation at the zoo pre-COVID was international, just to give you an idea. So there's a chart there. It's a really ugly slide with a bunch of numbers on it. So this was the first 10 days when we opened. We opened to the public on June 20th. So this is from June 20th to June 30th. And what you see on the left-hand side at the top, that is the San Diego Zoo in 2020. And then on the right-hand side at the top is the San Diego Zoo in 2019. So you can see in 2019, we had 34% of our attendance came from San Diego, 16% came from Los Angeles. And then you can see some little scattered markets, and the other, everybody else, was 35%. After we opened post-COVID, 78% of our attendance was coming from San Diego. So it was hyper-local, hyper-backyard all of a sudden. Los Angeles didn't change a lot as a percentage of our mix, right? So this isn't speaking to volume, but this is speaking to the percentage of the mix coming through the gate. You can see the other, that's where the big hit happened. So 35% of our guests were coming from someplace other than what was listed in our top 10 source of residency DMAs. And then once we reopened, only 2% were coming from outside of that. And you can see even the shift in those top DMAs. All of a sudden, Yuma made it into our top 10 DMAs, which is crazy, right? Versus New York and Houston and Salt Lake. So major shift in where the guests were coming from. And you saw the same thing happen at the safari park. The other shift we saw was a change in the average time spent on ground. So it shifted from 4 hours and 13 minutes to 3 hours and 32 minutes. So we were shaving off 45 minutes. And really that was, again, in the very beginning with the whole mask thing and people just wanting to get out and just stretch their legs, and also was our local member audience. So they knew where they were going on grounds, and they tend to spend less time on grounds as it is. So big shift in where they were coming from. If you go back to that other slide with the billboards, we opened right in the middle of summer, and we usually have nighttime zoos, summer safari, we have entertainment, we have things going on grounds. We decided that now is not the time to have a live band performing on the plaza. We didn't want people to gather. We couldn't do animal presentations the way we did. So we shifted and said, we're going to get rid of all of that, and we just want people to come back. We want people to know that we're open. There was big confusion in California. The legislation, the rules coming from the governor's office said, outdoor zoos could stay open, but indoor zoos were closed, which is a weird concept in California, to have an indoor zoo to begin with. So what the news was reporting were zoos were closed. So we wanted to make sure people knew we were open, we were outdoors, we were safe, please come back, we're open. So this became our marketing campaign, which was welcome back. We are now open. And that was our very basic, simple message out there. And on grounds, it was really just focusing on the animals and our staff and welcoming our guests back. And we stripped it down to a real basic, simple experience so people could enjoy it and space themselves out appropriately.
Wow, that's great information. I do love the simplicity of that message because, you know, with our family, I've talked a lot about our family. We just got to get out of the house. We just got to go somewhere. We recently just had the movie theaters reopen and very spaced out. We went, but it was a great, it's that 2-3 hours of just getting away from this one place. It's really nice and welcoming.
Yeah. The other thing that we had to take into consideration, and I know there was some talk earlier about timed experiences, the bicycles in Zoo Miami. We have a lot of tours that we sell, and the way our tours, they are timed to inventory, and they happen throughout the day, and they're anywhere from an hour to 2.5 hours long, and you book it for a set time frame. So we had that to contend with, and also those tours, we'll sell a truck that goes out into the field, and there's 15 people that go on this truck in pre-COVID. We couldn't do that in post-COVID because of the gathering restrictions, so it had to be a single household. And we had to distance the guide from the guests in the truck, and so we had to cut that inventory into half, so we'd only take 6 people at a time, and they all had to be the same household. So we flipped the way we sell those timed inventories. Instead of selling 1-to-1, we sold up to 6 at one price. And so now if you go on our website, you will see, there it is, you can see $318 per cart, up to 6 household members. And so that was a big shift for us. And we started, you got to be, somebody said nimble, you got to be so nimble. We took off our buy button and we said, just call us. We'll help you, just call. And so now I'm happy to say our buy buttons are coming back on the website. But this was a way for us to still fill those carts, a little bit less bodies, but be able to continue to take the money. And this became hugely popular, more popular than pre-COVID, because now you could do something with your family that you knew was in a safe environment, and it was unique and private and exclusive to your group only. So that was a really big selling point for us as well. And as you can see here, we've got so much signage and, asking people to space themselves out. It works most of the time. If there's a cute baby doing anything, it's hard to get people to continue to be spaced out. But our staff does a really good job.
Well, I like this picture because I've said this before. And of course, we're in the attractions industry. We want to open as much as possible and have guests in. But my wife absolutely loves this. Like, she loves the concept of saying, I don't want to be. We want to have a shared experience in that one vehicle as a family. We want that experience, and we'll pay for those types of experiences. And we want to have private viewing of animals. And obviously that's not 100% in alignment, but there's going to be some really great opportunities that come out of this, because there's a lot of families that are looking to spend their money on experiences very differently now. And those types of experiences, like renting out a theme park in Kentucky that Matthew mentioned, it's something that people will do with a tight group of people, family, or even just a small gathering of friends that are safe.
Yeah, there's a phenomenon going on in the marketing world that they're calling revenge spending, right? You've been cooped up with your family, and now you just want to get out, and you're going to spend that money, darn it. And so we are ready to take their money when they're ready to part with it.
I'm going to take that money segue and jump over to Anthony because he's the CFO over at Aquarium Pacific. Anthony, let's talk about strategy and budgets and forecasting. Actually, I'm not even going to set it up too much. I just want to hear, what are you guys doing differently to capture as much revenue as possible to be profitable, to get that revenge money?
Yeah, for us, Randy, it's really been truly all about survival and, having the ability to have our outdoors, being an aquarium that has outdoor space and being able to have that open has made a difference. We closed in March as everyone did, and then we reopened back in June 14th. We were open for 19 days, full indoor and outdoor. And we had, I had done some reprojections for the rest of the remainder of the year. We fortunately at that time had a number of dollars in reserves because we had just finished that beautiful Pacific Visions project that you see right there, the blue part of our aquarium in the picture there. And we actually came in, believe it or not, under budget and on time, which is you never hear those two things. So we had not only the reserves that we have by covenant with our city of Long Beach, but we had savings from a project. And quite frankly, those two things with some other pockets of money have really saved us. We have had to do reduction in force. We have people furloughed, but that has given us the ability, because as you all know, aquariums and zoos have costs regardless of whether or not, you have 10 visitors or 10,000. We have high fixed costs. The animals need to be taken care of and fed. Our life support systems still need to be in place. So we put together a budget that basically was supported, just taking it on the, taking on the chin, showing that we were going to have a deficit this year. The deficit that I predicted initially has grown because we opened in June. We were open for 19 days, but like some others, we closed July 3rd, or we closed the indoor part July 3rd. So since then we've been running outdoors only, as Nicole has said. We're bringing in about $1 million a month, a little over $1 million a month. Just to give you relatively how well that is, in our peak season, July, August, July's revenue budget was $5 million. So to bring in $1 million, it does cover. We are covering obviously the variable costs that come in hand with being open, but it's obviously a far cry from what our original budget called for. Now we did curtail expenses with, as I mentioned, labor, and we cut out, we cut out things that we just knew didn't make sense, and that didn't make sense for having a capacity limit and being outdoor only. So we've been able to, mitigate that missed revenue with savings and expense. So for July, my original projection off of my budget, I only missed from $5 million in revenue. With what we did, I had projected $2 million in revenue. The new normal indoor and outdoor, we did $1 million, and then we had cost savings from expenses. Our net miss was about $300,000. Not terrible, but certainly not the greatest thing. But certainly having the outdoor open and having the buzz, kind of still be here, and then we're all thinking of different revenue ideas. We actually were able to open the indoor retail portion, because retail stores can be open, and that's up against the entrance that we're in now for the outdoor only. And I'm pleased to say retail, our retail sales did as well this past weekend as they would have done where we fully opened. So with lower attendance and sort of that kind of a different entrance, we were able to knock it out of the box with retail. So we're just looking at any and all opportunities. We are, we're patiently, but hopefully waiting to open fully. I'm thinking mid-October. That's what I'm kind of basing my numbers on. Kudos to Nicole, who spoke earlier, and our whole operations, John Rouse, and everyone for being nimble and being able to flip the switch and get us where we're operational outdoors. They look at, we do time ticketing, and we do work with capacity and walk-ups, and Nicole spoke about that a little earlier. And they've done a great job to maximize revenue, maximize ticket sales, to work with capacity, stay within the state guidelines. And so, we're just trying to weather the storm here, really. I'm working on next year's budget, which is very, very challenging because we don't, unfortunately, have any. We have the first 2 months of the year, this year, and then 19 days of June to try to figure out, and those aren't even, so what's the new normal? That's the question. So it's been very challenging. We, in summary, we're living right now, we're working through our reserves, and we're trying to mitigate, as much cost and maximize as much revenue as we can. Just like Nicole mentioned, we will, when we have the green light to open, we will be open within 24 hours because it's very important to our model.
I mean, that's great to be able to mobilize that quick. And the thing is families are going to be able to mobilize in 24 hours as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be ready to go. I was really interesting, and I'm not sure if you can do this at your location because it's still time constrained, but maybe Michelle's seen it. I was talking to some other zoos that are seeing a very surprised little bit of an uptick in some of their midweek forecasted numbers. And it's because in a lot of the locales where schools are remote, they're starting to see that people are just getting creative with where they go to school. And if you go to schools and look at animals, isn't that better than being, indoors at your home?
Well, an important thing to note is typically after Labor Day, we see attendance go down because kids are back in school. And relatively speaking, with what we've seen for the outdoor portion only, we're still steady with the visitor level that we had before Labor Day. So it's those little nuances and things that you do take notice of, but it makes it challenging to try to base a whole 2021 budget on things when we don't even know when we're going to open yet. So. Yeah,
it's really Anthony and everybody, anyone who can jump in. I want to talk about partner networks. These are either your corporate sponsors or your sales partners. How have those relationships been through this period of time, and what are the key changes that you guys are seeing about working with your partners?
Well, for us at the aquarium, that's been another pocket of funds that we have been able to tap into. So we historically have a lot of partners, corporations, even individuals that they give to specific projects. They might give to education scholarships. They might give to an exhibit. And we've been able to go back to those partners in this time, and they've allowed us to unrestrict those funds. And so that's helped immensely with operations as well. That's another bucket. We've been able to release probably over $300,000 one-time release of certain funders to just kind of work against our, the losses that we're seeing in just normal business operations.
Randy, for us with our partners, we have a lot of sponsors, and we had to figure out a way to make good on some of those sponsorships because we were closed for 3 months, and so they were not getting the exposure to guest traffic that they signed up for. So on the flip side, what we saw while we were closed was this huge increase in our webcams, our educational content. And so we started to pivot our partnership recognition from on-grounds to virtual. And we also created some new opportunities to sell that space to new partners. And so it was fantastic. In the very beginning, we saw a 4,000% increase in the webcam traffic. Wow. And so it was a great way to sell somebody space there on the webcams. And so it ended up being a good opportunity for our existing partners and a good sales tool for new partners.
Well, that's really yeah. I mean, I always go back to what we have been saying many times. Someone heard it on a webinar. At this point, I don't even know who to credit for it, but we don't want to we don't want to look backwards and try to go back to where we were. There's new horizons in front of us. There's a way to do things differently. And of course, Anthony, yeah, we need to get ready for that 24-hour phone call when we can reopen and we can bring everybody back and the guests will be ready to come. I love what you said, Anthony, about hitting those retail sales numbers with less people. That does make me feel that there's that revenge spending mentality that Michelle, you were mentioning. And Diana, it's the same thing. If I'm going to the zoo, I'm getting on the bike, right? I'm gonna go have my own space. I'm gonna love it with my family, or I'm gonna get that cart for $300 in my family. I don't know how I'm gonna fit everybody on that cart, Michelle, but I'll probably figure out a way to get us in there. So it is really encouraging to see and hear about those opportunities. I'm gonna end with one last note because it's something else to think about as we go. Bill D'Angelo just sent a message in the chat because he has a little one around the house, and he says a lot of parents, not sure families want to go out, but a lot of parents have been cooped up at home with many little ones as well. And once you can get a babysitter, those parents are going to be ready to go out on the town. I was able to do this with my wife to celebrate our anniversary, and it was fantastic to go outside and go someplace and have a meal. And I am starting to see a lot of those special evening programs pop up. And I think that's another great opportunity for us to use that outdoor spaces that we might have for some, adult events where babysitting is assumed to be at home or whatnot. So sign me up. I will go and visit all of your attractions when you're ready to have my family, well, just my wife and I should say. But anyway, well, guys, I'm looking at the clock. We could probably talk forever, a lot longer. I really appreciate all of you. Nicole, Michelle, Anthony, and Diana, thank you so much for joining us today and being part of our special family here. I'm not going to put the slide back up, but if you're interested in a webinar in a couple of weeks, we'll have one in 2 weeks. Just go to gatewayticketing.com community. You'll get information there. Bill D'Angelo and Matthew, thank you guys very much. You can all say goodbye if you'd like, if you want to unmute or whatnot. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. We wish you a great AZA as it continues. If you have any questions that we didn't get to, just feel free to email any of us or hit us up on our community and we can chat. For those of you that want to stick around a little longer, I might hang out with Bill D'Angelo. If you had any question after we end this, you could just stick around and we can chat. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Diana.
Bye, thank you, Randy.
Bye, Michelle. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much.
Hey,
Randy.
Anthony.
Yes.
So my new mantra is we are less bad.
You are less bad.
We are less bad. So every period, we go by a period calendar, but every period we are less bad. And so
got it.
that's my new mantra for this year.
Yeah. Well, it's totally a jump ball for next year's budget. I just, you hope to get, I had hoped to get some months of experience of what this new normal was going to be, and it never happened. My budget's due next month, so.
Yeah, we are revising our forecast every week.
Yeah.
Because there's so many moving parts, and we pushed the budgeting schedule to be a little later in the fourth quarter because we want to be as accurate as we can, but we have no idea what accurate looks like. So, yeah, it's tough.
Good. Well, good luck, and we'll all get through this.
We'll take the train up and visit you one of these days.
You should. We'll do the same.
I have to throw a caveat in there because getting to Long Beach on the train is a little more difficult because I believe you're going to have to get on a different train at some point. But Michelle, the suites, well, you've taken the train, I hope. Yes?
More care to share, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, come on, Randy. Randy, we get off in Fullerton and we'll send security to pick you up. You